Hello, and welcome to the Hemet Film Festival podcast. The Hemet Film Festival is an annual celebration of independent film hosted at the Historic Hemet Theatre, a beautiful 100-year-old movie palace located right in the heart of downtown Hemet. This podcast will be dedicated to talking with local filmmakers and artists from the area. Whether you reside in Hemet, the Inland Empire, or Southern California, we would love to have you. Many of our guests will be filmmakers who have played at the festival. To coincide with each episode, we will stream a limited run of a short film made by that week's guest. Filmmakers often keep their newest work private from public view while waiting to hear back if they got into festivals. So this will be a great way to preview new, independent movies and have our website act as an ongoing online film festival. And then we'll feature a new film for the next episode. So go watch it before it leaves our site. Enjoy this week's conversation and go to the hemetfilmfest.com/podcast to see what's playing. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Hemet Film Festival podcast. My name is Gabriel Diaz, and today I'm joined with one of the co-founders, Daniel Maggio.
What's up? Hey, Gabe.
So awesome to have you on this first one, Daniel. It kind of makes the most sense. My
oldest friend.
We go back sixth grade-ish. I think we met near sixth grade with an old friend of ours, Damon.
Yes.
I want to set the table for everyone listening that this podcast, the reason we wanted to put this out there is so that we can have a chance to talk to the people that are going to hopefully cycle through with the Hemet Film Festival, either people who are from Hemet or the Riverside County area or the Inland Empire, or are able to get their films through the festival. We want to be able to give them a voice and let everyone kind of hear and kind of get it from the director or from the actors, whoever wants to talk with us. And so we thought this first couple would be great to meet the founders and see why we're doing this in the first place and why this matters to us and why we think it'll be a good impact for the community.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos in the area making movies and stuff.
There's a lot of them, including us. Yeah.
And so, the Historic Hemet Theater where we're doing the festival is just this amazing facility. It's like 100 years old. It's amazing that it's still standing and still operating. It's changed so many owners and over time, you know. And so it's just really cool that they're letting us have the event there. And and just like you said, wanting to talk to people who are submitting stuff or live in the area. And that's kind of the fun thing is we don't know who's out there. I mean, I know some people making movies and doing stuff and been in contact with them and being make something. But there's a lot of people we don't know who are out there. And that's really what's exciting, I think, about the whole thing is you just put a big beacon out and it's the big bat signal. And it's hey, who makes movies around here? And or just being you can make a movie,
Yes,
it's
that's a great point. I think something that we really are going to emphasize as we move forward with the festival is just that so many people have the opportunity to make a movie. I think we both have seen a lot of people have that, there's that fear to start or that I'm not sure if I'm this person that can do that. And so I think hopefully this podcast too will inspire some people to realize you can do it and we'll have a place where you can show it. That's the best thing. As you kind of were mentioning, I think it gets to serve both as a bit of a lighthouse and a landing pad for these ideas and people that are going to make some really fascinating stuff. We started this and I even had my nephew reach out to me hey, can I submit a film? I'm please do. It's I didn't even really know that my family had some people already who were attached to this. And I was this is awesome.
Yeah. How old's your nephew?
He is, 21 just last week. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, which is wild because, I met him when I was 16 or 15.
Right.
I was geez. But it's fascinating to have him around and to have this option for us. So I think one of the first things we want to talk about that I'd like to talk about and kind of help connect everyone listening to understanding is most of us are from Hemet. We have some connection to it. We've worked there or we've made movies there. Daniel's made a ton of them. And I think we just want to start with Daniel, do you want to give us a little bit of background on how did you get to Hemet? How did it become this place that you kind of really have attached a lot of your work to?
Yeah. I mean, as far as the getting into filmmaking and things like that is it's so tied to Hemet. and then wanting to do the festival and wanting to have especially like the student showcase portion of the festival, which will be like the Saturday night like premiere event that we're going to have at the theater. It kind of is all rooted out of my own history and my own experience being in middle school and taking taking a class with this teacher, Mr. Marshall, whose first name was Jimbo, but he didn't call him Jimbo. Call him Mr. Marshall. As much as you wanted to call him Jimbo, I've since called him Jimbo after I graduated. But it's kind of like being young and wanting to be an artist, but not knowing what that means or what that looks like. Like I really wanted to do music. I was really into music. I wanted to learn guitar, and I would create fake album covers for this fake band I had called Blind Turkeys. And I would, and like the first album was called Thanksgiving, and it's just a turkey. I don't know. It's like, I had this like logo and stuff. And then I made like, I don't know, like 10 albums, like the Blind Turkeys, like these are like 10. And on the back, it had like all the track names and stuff. I didn't write a single song, but it was all just conceptual of like, oh, that's what I'd like to do, you know? And
kind of manifested the creativity.
Yeah. And then I took this video production class in middle school. So it was like 7th grade video production. And this is 2002, something like that. 2003, 2002, 2003. And which is just crazy that the teacher was even doing that he got the go ahead to even like teach a class. He presented it to the school. He was like, he like went to get hired by the Acacia Middle School and was like, I could also teach this video production class, because he had a film degree and he had a wedding videography business. And so he knew how to use digital cameras and digital editing and stuff like that. And I took his class, and it was like this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, film is every art form in one package. So it's like you have music as part of it, you have performance as part of it, you have photography, you have design, you have acting, whatever. Like it's like everything is all in one, and it's like fun and really entertaining. And everybody loves movies. I mean, for the most part, everyone's got like a favorite movie or something that they're really attached to. And I was just like, wow. And then him showing you with the technology how accessible it was, even then, was like, oh my gosh, I could totally do this.
Kind of took it away from being a mythical like thing in the past and like this distant idea to like, oh, this is completely feasible for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, whether it's good or not, that's here nor there. And you have no clue. And you have no clue like how big these movies are really, and how many people are working on them, and what it takes to make something look like a Hollywood movie. That part is so far away. But the process and the technique, and that's all the same stuff. It's just presentation. And so we were friends at that time. And I remember like writing a script. This is actually funny. I was at Knott's Berry Farm like 2 nights ago for Knott's Scary Farm.
I saw.
Yeah. And, the line, the river raft ride, where you all sit in the river raft.
So
it was
log ride thing.
Yeah. It was like you, me, and Damon, we were in line for that. And then our friend Damon he starts talking like this, like, hey, my name's Donnie Forelli, blah, blah, blah. And he's like being this fake Italian gangster guy. And I was like, whoa, we should make that a movie. Like, and like all our friends should play characters in it, blah, blah, blah. So I took.
Was that the advent of Neighborhood Mafia?
That was the birth of the idea. It was at Knott's Berry Farm. So I remembered that last night when I was there. I was like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right here, right in this line. So I spent all summer writing this script, The Neighborhood Mafia, and it's 140 pages long. So I spent all summer. I think we tried to make a movie or something that summer, and it just kind of crashed and burned. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, I'm going to write this feature. And you had a character. Damon had a character. All our friends had characters. And I write the script. It's 140 pages. I go back 8th grade I take Mr. Marshall's class again, because of course I'm going to take it again, because like this is what I want to do. And I give him the script and I go, hey, do you mind reading this? I spent all summer writing it. And he grabs it. It's like, what the heck? Like, this is huge. You're like, yeah, I'll read this. And so he reads it. And then he invites me into his office after class. And he goes, hey, so it's really impressive you wrote this script, but it's not good. And it was like, what? And he's like, but I'm going to tell you why it's not good. So he started like really taking the opportunity to teach me and asking me these questions like, why is the character do this? Why does the character say that? How do you plan to shoot this? And I had no answer to any of his questions other than like, I thought it'd be cool. Or it's from that other movie. Like, oh, I just stole it from that other movie. And so he's like, look, obviously you care about this. Obviously you want to do this, but the movie you wrote, you can't make. Like, you're not ready to make it. So why don't we make a movie on campus? And like, he taught me the main word with independent filmmaking, which is resources. He's like, what are our resources? He goes, we are on a campus and we have access to students. We have access to the entire campus. So let's make a movie that takes place at a middle school. I'm like, oh, that's smart. So he's like, we'll make a movie. He's like, you write the script. And this is like the beginning of the school year. And so he's like, you write the script over this like first semester. And then next semester, we'll create an elective that's anyone who wants to be part of this movie project can be in this elective. And we'll make a movie, which is like crazy that he was able to do that. And the principal and everyone was on board and they thought it was so awesome. So we thought of this movie idea called The Unknown Superhero. And it's about this student who gets superpowers from the school lunch meat. That's called mystery meat that no one ever eats it because it's so gross. And like, it's like, no one eats the mystery meat, but he gets dared to eat it. And then he eats it. And then he gets these superpowers. And of course, all the superpowers are like the most low rent you could ever do. Like, he can read people's thoughts because, yeah, you could do a voiceover. That's easy. Put some reverb on it. He's reading thoughts. He can run fast. You just speed up the footage and have other people run slow. Yeah. He can freeze time. He like scratches his nose and time freezes and all the other actors are just posing in place and he does stuff. So it was like a cute little 30-minute movie. And it was like the ultimate learning experience for me. And so Mr. Marshall, he's directing, he's operating the camera. I am doing the boom mic and I'm the writer. So he's like, I can change lines or do whatever. I remember just being really shy and just being like, oh, this is great. And I
can't believe I get to do this.
Yay. And then that movie played at the Temecula Film Festival. So the Temecula Film Festival was going on then. And then it stopped, and now it's going on again. So it's restarted. But the Temecula Film Festival was going on back then in the early 2000s, and it played in the student category. And
awesome.
And that was like the moment of getting to see this movie that I'd worked so hard on, and all these people were involved with. I mean, like, there was probably 40 people all connected to this one movie, just bum rushing, just like taking up all the seats in the Temecula movie theater. And when our movie comes on, it's like, everyone's going nuts and like, written by Daniel Maggio. And I was like, oh my God. Like, when the credit comes up, it was really really cool. And then I could hear I sat right in the middle of the theater and I could hear everyone like laughing around me and reacting to stuff. And it was like that classic moment where it's like, okay, this is awesome. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And how cool it is to see your work play in a movie theater with an audience. And there's just like nothing like it. And so it's like, thinking about that experience for me as like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and just wanting to create that for students in our community.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned in that is kind of something that I think is incredibly important going forward with the film festival is that this is a great chance for us to be impactful to students in that same way of being able to offer the like, you can do this. This is something that's like totally feasible for you. And then hopefully eventually we'll be able to provide ways of like teaching a little bit of those skills or answering those questions. Cause like you mentioned with Mr. Marshall, he took that opportunity, and even though he was sort of giving you the bad news of like, hey, this isn't doable, it was a teaching moment. Like he took
Yeah.
that opportunity to be like, this isn't doable for you as the director you are right now, but I'm not saying you can't get there. And like, let's build that up. Let's get you those chops. Let's teach you that, what you mentioned, something incredibly important of like, make what you can. Like,
Hmm.
they're like, okay, this superpower we can do. This
Yeah.
superpower we can do. We got to make him fly it. That one might be a little tougher. Maybe he doesn't need that superpower. Like you have all these little different um, understandings of the environment that you're filming in, and I think that's a really important skill. And I'm excited to see like what we'll see people figure out to do. That's always kind
Yeah.
of the fun thing with these films.
Yeah. And like now, like doing green screening and stuff, like a middle schooler could feasibly do green screening like quite easily, compared to like what that was like 20 years ago, with like the digital technology. So it's like, yeah, it's really exciting. And a lot of the students, they have cool resources now as far
Yeah.
as like what the kids at Hemet High, what they have access to. Yeah, Mount Sinai Synod, all that stuff. It's really cool. So
In my other job where I do a lot of educating as well in like the STEM environment, we've touched base a little bit on like video recording and audio recording, and it's fascinating to even see just some of the things that we've looked at getting with grants. Like there's some applications that already work AI into it to help you with like motion correction or color correction, different things like that on your images. Like just some truly fascinating creative approaches that are really coming out there.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens, kind of moving forward and what we get from students. And it's super exciting.
So I love what you were talking about, kind of getting inspired into film. I think maybe it might be worth kind of touching on like, what were you always a Hemet native? Did you move at an earlier, like a younger age or anything with your family? Like, what was the part that sort of made those roots for you?
I mean, I was born there, and then my parents were there. They divorced, but my dad always lived there. And then and then my mom moved back at some point too. So it was like always being in Hemet was always part of my life. Yeah, and so like coming back, and then I think middle school through high school was all being rooted there.
Well, I guess we all kind of have those moments, right, where you're like, this is the town I'm in. I better figure out what I can do in it. Like, what
Yeah,
are
I
the fun
it's like
things to
have
do?
fun.
Where can I go?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I used to be into like skateboarding and BMXing and stuff, and so obviously like skating around Hemet or like building dirt jumps to jump on your bike and stuff like that. Like that's the same thing about like using the environment. But then with the filmmaking thing, it's like, or being an artist or music or whatever, you're just like, well, the weird people I know are now like the dirt ramps to jump off of, as far as like making use, it's like those are your resources. That's what it's like you start to see your friends as characters, and
Something that always bummed me out was right as I started getting more comfortable with bike riding and stuff, I'd always wanted to go over this giant dirt mound that existed on Stetson, going out towards like Hemet High. There was
Okay.
like this old it was just a dirt field, and they had like, when I was a kid it looked like it was a 2-story big dirt jump basically that I would see people riding bikes on and stuff. And by the time I finally was like, oh man, I think I'm ready to like tackle that thing, they're like closed it to build houses that now exist there, and I'm like, no. So to kind of keep moving forward in the timeline then, so you've had this amazing experience in middle school, you've gotten to find your calling, which is always something that people are struggling with, and it's amazing when they finally have those moments. How did that transition for you into like high school, and like those, like how do you evolve those projects?
Yeah, I mean, the Neighborhood Mafia, I still wanted to make, and so it like went through different iterations, but it was still too big for like what I could pull off. Unfortunately, that was like the one that always got away. But what's interesting is thinking back on it is I think when I was starting out, I just wanted to make movies that had already been made, but do them in my own way versus really taking stock and being like, what do I know? What's part of my life? What's a story that's uniquely mine? I think I just really wasn't conscious enough or mature enough to understand that what made a good movie was somebody's unique perspective and embracing that. Like, I think that's what I do now, as far as like embracing Hemet and all certain things in the kind of movies I make now. It's like they're always rooted in something personal to me or personal to someone who is like acting in it or whatever. And we can talk about those kinds of projects later. But yeah, they were all kind of like a ripoff of something. And then, but then none of them kind of gained momentum. Like, I don't know, there's like lots of stuff I wanted to do. And I had like,
do you think it's a passion thing? Do you think it is kind of touching, like unintentionally, there's a part of you that's just like, this isn't something that hits me because it's not pulling from me?
I guess so. Or I think it's like being out of my element. I think I was just always out of my element, and that's why like things never happened. And we made some short movies and stuff like that for classes, and they were super fun, and they worked out because I was taking the lessons I had learned from Mr. Marshall and trying to use my resources versus trying to make a 2.5 hour mafia movie that, you know, I got no business doing.
Yeah.
And
I'll never forget you trying to make me do Spanish for the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, yes. Yes. I don't know.
I don't know this.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a odd project. We had to like do a video because like any time for class, it was like you could do a project. I'd always go, "Can I make a video?" And they're like, "Sure." And like no one else is doing that because I started working for Mr. Marshall, who I will now call Jimbo, and I started working for Jimbo when I was 15 doing weddings. So I would film weddings with him and then I would edit the weddings. So by like 16 or so, I was the primary editor for all the weddings that he was shooting, which is crazy. So I had a computer and I had my own camera and I was able to edit with Final Cut 7 on my computer in high school. So that just translated into every opportunity I had to make a video. I'd be like, "Can I do a video? Can I do a video?" And then, as opposed to like writing a paper or whatever, and then being in ASB and then doing all of the videos for ASB that would play at the student assemblies or play on the bulletin and that kind of stuff. So it just became like, oh, that's an opportunity to just keep doing stuff. But I always wanted to make a feature film because that's what I loved. I kind of joke, but it is true. Like, I didn't even know like you could make a short film. Like, I didn't even know that was a possibility because every movie I had ever seen was a feature. So I like
the shortest films you can make are maybe 90 minutes.
Right.
74 if you're really squeezing it.
So I always thought of movies as features. So I'd get a movie idea and I'd be like, well, that's a feature. That's a feature. You know, like, and so I don't know what happened. I guess in senior year of high school or maybe junior year, I wrote a scene that was just like for fun of these two characters, this boy and girl in high school, and they are like internet sex chatting with each other. And the end of the scene is like both of them being called to dinner by their mom. And they're like, their bedrooms are right next to each other and they both walk out of the bedrooms and it's like, oh my God, they're brother and sister. And so it was just like, well, that's a funny scene. Like it's a bit or a sketch or something, you know? And then I was really encouraged to like develop that idea. Like, who are those characters? How do they get in that situation? Like, what are they at? So then I just started, and then I wrote like 30 pages of that story, which I called Brosis, one word, capital B, one word, Brosis. And I wrote this 30 pages and I just started showing it to people. I'm like a junior. I'm like, 16, 17 years old. And it's a very like R-rated blue movie. It's
a hard R.
Because that's the kind of stuff I was into. Those are the kind of movies that I really liked, like Welcome to the Dollhouse and stuff like that. And I was really encouraged to like develop it, like finish this. Like you've got the first act, keep writing it. And then I wrote it as a feature. And I remember being with my mom and showing it to my mom. And of all people, this is, like there's simulated masturbating. There's it's so much swearing. And I wanted my 15-year-old brother to play the lead character, which I think is illegal, for him doing what he did. But who knows? Whatever.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I know. I wonder about it. Yeah, thinking back.
Okay, segment 10 minutes through 15. Maybe it'll be in the podcast.
But basically, my mom was like, "You have to make this," and that was like I guess the encouragement that I received to go, okay, I'll make this. And so I set out basically my entire senior year filming on the weekends and after school and stuff like that. We filmed a 90-minute feature exploring this subject of this brother and sister who unknowingly start dating each other over the internet. And in real life, their family's going through a divorce. And so they're fighting over like who's gonna get custody, and they both want custody with their dad because he's cooler. And I think their mom's just like annoying. And it's like, she wants to like have family time and talk. And they're like, that sucks.
How was your day? They're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. And so it just became like a combination of this love story of them gradually falling in love over the internet and gradually growing to hate each other more and more as the film goes on, and just kind of having those two storylines conflict with each other. And I was like, wow, I just, I'm like, that's
I think if you'll forgive the kind of the going into the deeps like weeds on it, I think something that does stand out though is that you did sort of unintentionally write like the duality of man in that like in Brosis, because it is so much of like this falling in love with the only outlet they have, which is each other on the internet side. Right. And yet growing to loathe each other more and more in the like real sort of world side. And there was such an interesting dichotomy at play. It's like for a film that's like ostensibly built from a punchline, right? You still managed to put so much else into it, like, all these different working cogs that sort of made it what it was.
Yeah, and all these other characters and stuff. And it was like, yeah, just again, it's just like using the resources. So it's like, well, these are the people I know. I can film on campus. There was a teacher who I will not name who unlocked the campus for us and allowed us to film on the weekends. We even filmed in the principal's office, like when no one was there. It's just awesome. And then Jimbo, Mr. Marshall, played the principal in the movie. So he was super encouraging. And it's kind of amazing that even happened. But again, even at that age, it's like, there's no rules. And, I'm glad I made it because I learned so much. It's kind of like you get now I don't even show it to people. You have to know me for like a couple years and then I might show it to you.
It's the friend litmus test.
I got to know we're cool. Yeah. Cause there's some pretty outrageous stuff in there that like I can't have floating around.
It does speak to Waves though, that so much of that movie is like, how did this get made? And it's like, well, we tried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and to anyone listening, like to people that are thinking of making a film or in that cusp of it, you'd be amazed if you just try, like what'll happen.
Yeah, who you ask. Yeah. And like there's a character in there named Vincent Redwood who is a former child molester. And it's like a buddy movie, he's like the friend of the main character. Man, I got
you
so
literally
many
have your brother. He meets Vincent Redwood, who's going door to door to tell people of his background, and your brother's first response is like, "What was your age?"
Yeah, what was your age preference?
What was your age range? Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, he's out of the 8 to 12. He's like, okay, I'm good. I'm Lester. Nice to meet you. And I'm just like, that's really wrong. But
it doesn't make it not funny though.
Or whatever. Yeah, at that time it was hilarious. But I asked so many people to play that character, and they're like, no way, dude. Family, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, so people had qualms with that? Go figure.
Yeah, but you got to keep asking. You got to keep knocking on the doors.
Someone will say yes.
Someone will, yeah.
We wouldn't have child actors if there weren't people saying yes. You've done this in high school. Was there any point for you where there was a bit of a want to say like crisis of faith, but like you weren't sure if this was going to be something that was a career? Did you just slide right into a school? Like, how did the next steps after high school? Because I think for a lot of people, that's the moment where you feel a little bit kind of the lines pulled from the dock and you're cast adrift. Did you find direction right away,
Yeah.
or did it take a bit?
No, it took a bit actually, because I was in a relationship in high school, and my senior year, or like going into senior year, I had got accepted into the Art Institute in Santa Monica to do film. And it was like it's a private school. It was like really expensive. It was going to be all student loans, but I got in just based on like a DVD I made of my work. And this is even before Brosis. This is just video projects I had made. And they accepted me on my interview and my DVD. Because also I knew how to make DVDs. I'm like, that's pretty cool for a high school student.
Yeah.
And so my whole senior year, I did not care about school at all. Like I passed fine because school is, whatever. It's like a game that you play, but I didn't care at all. And I just cared about making this movie. And so the whole time I'm making this movie, all I'm thinking is I'm going to film school. I'm going to film school. And then, I made this arrangement essentially with the person I was dating in high school that if we couldn't find a way to move to Santa Monica together and like remain together but go to school, if we couldn't figure it out logistically, then I would not go. That I would prioritize the relationship and I wouldn't go to school. And the logistics of moving there and getting an apartment and them going to community college while it was just like, no way. Like, no way is this going to work out. So I remember telling my mom that I didn't want to go because of this, and that being the reason. And she was so disappointed. And I was ultimately disappointed too, like in myself, that I had made that decision. And then for about a year, I just kind of like hung out in Hemet. I went to community college, and I just felt like I didn't know. I still knew I wanted to make movies, but I didn't know what that looked like. I don't know. I just kind of wasn't sure. I felt like I was really riding high, and then I made this decision, which I made. I live with. I don't have, I don't regret it ultimately, because I ended up meeting Wesley and the guys in Hippie Cream. So Hippie Cream was this band, this Hemet band, and they had been together for like 10 years or something. And it was my friend Wesley's older brother who started this band, and he puts on a CD of theirs, and it is like, reminds me of like early Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. And I was a huge Frank Zappa fan, and I didn't know like anybody who liked Frank Zappa. I didn't know anyone who was trying to make music that was weird and like just off the wall. I was like, what is this, dude? I was like, I gotta meet these guys. I gotta like meet your brother, and I gotta meet these, And then I just started learning about their creative process and how they really worked as a team. And they allowed everybody to contribute to it in a way that felt right to them. And everyone's personality was kind of immersed in this band, versus like, I think what I was trying to do with movies is sort of like what maybe like what certain Paul McCartney albums are, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to play the drums, I'm going to play the bass, I'm going to sing, I'm going to play the guitar, and granted, he's a genius, but there is something, magical about the Beatles, because it's these individual people with these personalities. The way they play, the way they sing, the way they write is so specific. And so, and that's, to me, is what makes the Beatles really great. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost like I had met the Beatles of Hemet. And it was like,
that's fair.
And it was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. So I just started to really rethink how I wanted to approach doing movies. And so I started filming some stuff for them. I filmed a music video for them. I filmed them playing live, and it just felt like I'd found really cool collaborators. And they really welcomed me, and I showed them all Brosis, and they thought I was crazy for doing that. And I earned their respect as an artist because I had made that movie. In fact, all of them saved my name in their phone as Brosis. And so that's why you do that stuff, in my opinion. Like the only reason that I make movies is to meet people, is to like meet the right people. Yeah. Like whatever is success, that to me is like success. So it's like, even though I made Brosis got into no film festivals, dude, not a single one. And I was like, dang, that's really disheartening. And after my childhood experience at the Temecula thing, I was like, surely, you know, like this is a brilliant movie. How can no one see this?
Well, it speaks volumes too, that like it helped you change the paradigm of like collaborative process, because it's important to realize that other people are also wanting to be creative in these aspects. It's not just the director or the writer or the one person. Everyone wants to come together to make this art. And so a big part of it is that collaborative process, but also what you're saying of like, it's important to kind of shoot your shot or kind of go a little like stretch yourself a little bit, because you're not going to always find only collaborative or artistic people in every field. And they're not always going to have the same ideas or the same thoughts as you. So being able to find that niche by like, hey, I put a little bit of like raw version of myself out there. Oh, you liked it? Cool. Maybe we can kind of sit at the same table then. Like we've got this connection.
Right. It's like them as a band were flying their freak flag really high. And then I flew my freak flag making that movie. And it was like, cool. Like maybe we could do something together. And so that's a huge reason to just make stuff follow your instincts as an artist, because other people will connect with it and other artists will connect with it, and then you can be working with other people. And that's where things get really good, is when you start getting more and more people involved in your stuff, and then it just becomes like a lot of different personalities, fingerprints on it, and it's like, whoa, that's a movie. That's that intangible thing you can't put your finger on, of like why the Beatles are good. I mean, you can if you know all the people, and it's like, but you love it more when you know, like, oh, that's such a Paul bass line, or like that's such a Paul, you know, whatever, to use as an example.
They exist as more than the sum of their parts, and that's something that you kind of get from that undefinable additional part of like knowing each other or appreciating each other's craft or ability to make things. I think also too, I want to circle back a little bit. It's really important for anyone listening to kind of hold on and hear that part of like not necessarily getting Brosis into other festivals or not having this directly linear like growth of you as an artist, because that's something I think I see it with students a lot, unfairly put on themselves. The expectation is I should be doing this, and then I should be doing this, and then I should be doing this, and they should all be a line of me getting better. It's like you're going to have moments that might feel like plateaus or might even feel like a backslide. You're going to have those changes, like you talked about with choosing not to immediately go to that art school. Like there are these things that are going to change, and that's organic and that's part of life. Like don't let those moments set you back completely.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't know what's going to happen, and then meeting Hippie Cream was like, that was the ultimate formative, like creative, like turning point in my life, And I still work with all those guys, and I'm like part of the band now, after after all this time. So it's like I started out as a fan, and then I'm like, now I'm like in the band, which is awesome.
What was the Beatles producer, George Martin, the unofficial fifth Beatle?
And so, and then I eventually was like, well, I gotta go to film school. Like I gotta do that. And so
I don't know if you remember this, but you called me.
I did. Yeah.
I talked to you on the phone, and I remember you like, I think you must have just finally like submitted or decided about San Jose. Because I remember you kind of,
oh, cool.
You were talking to me about it, and we were chatting about something earlier, and you're kind of like, hey, I got this big news I want to share. I was like, what's going on? And you're like, I think I'm going to go to San Jose. I think I'm going to like really go kick the tires on this and make this a reality. And I just remember being like, this is the coolest news I think I'm going to get in a long time.
Awesome. Awesome. Now that you say that, I do actually remember that. And I remember you being like, just so happy and excited.
Are you kidding me? Like
that was happening. Yeah.
I can't imagine a better feeling than like seeing someone find something they care about and like their passion and being able to start pursuing it. Because I come from a place where like I'm still not always sure what exactly my passion in life. Like I still feel like I'm answering the question of what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Hmm.
But when you meet somebody who does it, you're like, oh, this is infectious to see like the joy and the kind of energy that undefinable other part that comes out of you.
Yeah, and I was so scared. I
Really?
was terrified. Oh my God, I was so nervous. Yeah, and I remember my grandpa and grandma drove me up there to drop me off. And the whole time I was just like, just like word vomiting, like so nervous. And my grandpa was like, I've never seen you like that. And, but it's like one of those things where it's like, this has to happen. Like, I just have to do this and I have to, and yeah, and then just throughout college, I met great people. I met Miles, who is one of the co-founders of the festival too, and we've been making movies together ever since. With him as the cinematographer and me as the director, and we're super collaborative in how we make our movies, and just like that happened. It's like you start to put years on this stuff, and you're like, whoa, that was. What year is it right now? 2023.
Yep.
So that was like 2008.
Yep.
So you're like, that's like 15 years ago. You're like, what the heck? You're like, that's crazy. So, and then the hippie cream thing, I just felt like I just tried to take what I learned from that, and then we ended up making a feature film with hippie cream, I ended up making another feature like just a couple years after Brosis, and it was a movie that I never thought I would make because I didn't know where my life was going to go. I have a piece of paper, it's like in a cabinet back there, but when I was a teenager I actually made a giant list of every movie I wanted to make in what order.
Oh, okay.
And it was like my filmography, but like for the future. And it was like, there's maybe like 10 movies on it, and they have different fonts, like they're different logos and stuff, but they're all just some copy of some other movie that I really liked. I mean, I must have made that when I was like 15 years old or something.
That's
and
awesome.
It has like the Neighborhood Mafia and blah, blah, blah. And like everything, like what I imagined what those movies would be. And I've made none of them because what life ends up being way more interesting than what I could have predicted as a 15-year-old. And every movie I've made, I never thought I would make that movie. It just comes about.
They're almost a surprise to you.
Yeah, it's a surprise. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, this is happening. And
it also helps when the movies kind of are undefinable at times, genre-wise. Like the movie we're alluding to is Marty's Magnificent Dayglow Dreamathon, and what would you classify that as? It's got some musical elements. It's got some musical. Psychedelic, sci-fi musical.
It's psychedelic. Yeah, it's a sci-fi musical. That's what I call it. Yeah, and it was all like Hippie Cream wrote an album based on the story.
Yeah. And then which is a banger on its own, which is pretty amazing.
The album is great. Yeah, and they really stepped up their game, because they were like a pretty like rough sounding band, and it was like, we're gonna make this movie. It's like, all right, everyone, put on your game face. We're doing this. And then the band is in the movie, and Wesley plays like their biggest fan who wants to be, his biggest dream is to be in the band, and he's got this grandpa that he calls Peepaw, who's dying of this disease where his eyeballs are going to pop out of his head. And he gets swindled. Marty gets swindled by this guy named Dr. Dream, that he can find the cure within his dreams. And he hooks him up to this machine, and his dreams are being broadcasted onto a TV and recorded on a videotape. And it just goes through these like different dream cycles. And it's pretty out there. Like, it's very conceptual, and it's a huge production. Like, we filmed it over the entire summer when I was in between years. So since I transferred to San Jose, I was only there for 2 years. So I did it in between my first and second year. And I mean, that was
it was a wild production. I also remember that you had it was basically kind of 4 parts for the dreams, if I recall correctly.
Mhm.
And you were kind of taking a different sort of cinematography approach for each one.
Right. Yeah. The concept was like scientifically, as you dream, there's 4 stages of sleep, and you dream throughout them, but only when you're in deep REM sleep, like the fourth stage, those are the dreams that you recall when you wake up. And so the idea was to make these 4 stages of dreams, but they're shot on progressively lower grade cameras to higher grade cameras. So
Yeah.
it's like the real world that Marty's in is black and white. When he jumps into his first dream, it is like a camcorder, like a Sony Handycam,
Yep.
you know, digital camera that would have been around in like maybe like the late 90s or something. And then the quality jumps to, a better like mini DV tape. And then it goes mini DV tape widescreen with an anamorphic lens. And then it goes into HD DSLR footage for the fourth dream, and then we're back into the black and white world, and then it goes into the color world. So it was shot on like 5 different cameras to try to like
Yeah.
convey the feeling of all of those different dreams.
I think it works really subtly in that movie. I would be curious though, like how that would work now if you're like, we're gonna do an 8K, then we're gonna do like
Yeah, I don't even know.
like 1080, then you're gonna jump to like 2K, like 4K, and then 8K, and you're like, would that be too jarring?
I would
Could you
honestly
even physically do that?
use the same cameras now.
Yeah,
if I was
for
like
sure.
at the same task, I'd be like, those are still the right cameras. Yeah. And we shot it all in Hemet. And then the last sequence we actually shot in San Jose, the fourth dream. So that was like using the entire, crew that I had met and worked with up in film school to make the last sequence of the movie. And it's like the production value is like through the roof compared to like all the other stuff. And like Wesley has like old age makeup on.
Yeah.
And we got to like redecorate the entire black box theater at school to look like a jungle, like with like tents, and like a tribe, like some cannibal tribe lives in this village or whatever. And I mean, it's crazy. It's like a cool experience. It's like such a synthesis of everything. I mean, that movie really to me symbolizes that whole stage of growth in my life. And I feel like I'm just trying to do the same thing now. It's like just thinking about what are the resources, and because like obviously like Hippie Cream is a huge resource. You have this band of like really talented musicians who can write this music and be in it, and they know all these people that they can get to be extras and other actors and all that. And so it's really just trying to continue on with that. And that's our production company is called Marty Fishman Productions, because Marty Fishman is the main character of that movie. Yeah. So I feel like that's the feeling, it's like the Marty Fishman production is exactly that. It's like just, trying to tell a story that is unique to us using our unique resources. And Hemet is a huge part of that. So it's like everything I've done virtually has been shot in Hemet since I graduated college.
Yeah.
So it's like I moved back to Hemet after school because I was like working in the like sports videography world up in the Bay Area. And it was cool and exciting, and it paid. But I was just like, I'm not making movies. So I just like, moved back to Hemet just so we could get back into making movies.
I think that's a big part to take away from like kind of this whole conversation, is that passion, that ability to find that middle ground of like doing something that obviously you're going to have to work, but being able to help it fund the things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I do now. It's like I'm just like a freelance videographer and video editor is basically what I am now. And that's what I do. So every year now I try to save like 10% of everything I make, just try to have like, be like a hard and fast rule. And then I just put that money into a production. And I've just been basically doing that ever since I got out of film school.
That's stellar. Well, Daniel, I think this was an absolutely amazing first episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we touched on a lot of different topics,
Yeah,
things we kind of really wanted to talk about. And
the
I
Hemet
hope people,
stuff.
the Hemet stuff, yeah. The Hemet Chronicles. I feel like we could have
Yeah.
like a multi-episode podcast just talking with each of the founders, it feels like. So this has been fantastic. I hope some people were able to listen, kind of get some insight and some ideas. We hope to see you at the Hemet Film Festival. It's November
Yeah.
10th and 11th this year. And then hopefully years after that will be in October. And please submit. It's on the website. If you're a student, it is free to submit, or the fee, I guess, for the submittal.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of different slots still, and I can't wait to get a chance to see all the different talents of people making these things. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah. And one thing we want to do with the podcast is when we have different filmmakers on, we want to basically host their movie for a week or 2 weeks, or how, I don't know how often we'll do this, a week, 2 weeks, or whatever. And we want to be able to host their movie on the hemetfilmfest.com website. So that way it's almost like the website is like a constantly revolving film festival in a way. So it's like when the episode comes out, we'll have a film that you can watch on the site with the episode to listen to and yada yada. So for this week, we're actually going to be hosting a movie that we recently made called The Great American Short Story, and it's a little 4.5-minute short. We made it in 2022, and it has played at a lot of different festivals, and it's a funny little ditty. And it's finished its festival run. And so now we're going to premiere it on the hemetfilmfest.com website with the podcast. So in addition to enjoying the episode, please enjoy our newest Marty Fishman production, The Great American Short Story, starring also Hemet native artist living in LA named Michael Haight.